Today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis, and we're going to be talking about the first part of photosynthesis. So you will need your notebook. Title can be photosynthesis. So first thing we're going to talk about is where photosynthesis takes place. And it takes place in the chloroplast. So go ahead and write this down. The chloroplasts are these green guys inside of a plant cell. And remember, animal cells, they do not have chloroplasts. They need to eat food in order to obtain their energy. Plant cells, on the other hand, are making their own food, their own sugars, and that's why they have those chloroplasts. If we take a look at a picture here under the microscope of a plant cell, we can actually see these are the chloroplasts. They're green, and each cell has quite a few of them. If we look at a close-up here, I want you to tell me, what is one thing you notice about the chloroplasts? So these are our chloroplasts close-up. So just tell me one thing you notice. Maybe you saw that there were dark dots. Maybe you saw that there were layers or streaks, or they're lighter colored, or they're oval shaped. All of those are great observations. So this is what a chloroplast looks like up close. And we're going to be talking about the different parts of a chloroplast. So if you're absent today, I have a little diagram that I can give you to put in your notebook. It looks like this. Just ask me for it when you get back. Happy to give that to you, okay? So we're going to talk about some different parts of this chloroplast as we go along. So just really quickly, I will just kind of outline some of the parts. There's membranes, that's on the outside, okay? The three things you need to know are the stroma. The stroma is the liquid inside of the chloroplast. So stroma is the liquid, okay? These little stacks of pancakes, each pancake is called a thylakoid. And this is actually where photosynthesis happens, part of it. So they're little membrane sacs that basically where photosynthesis happens. And then the whole stack here we call grana or granum. So again, I can give you that diagram and you can fill that in tomorrow, so don't worry too much about that. All right, next thing we're writing down is that chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment. Pigment means coloring, like a color pigment. And its job is to absorb sunlight energy. Without chlorophyll, it wouldn't be able to absorb the sunlight and it wouldn't be able to make food. So this gives plants their green color. I have a picture of chlorophyll. You don't necessarily need to know anything about this. I just put it on there as a reminder that all things are made up of atoms. And so we can see there's carbon and hydrogen and nitrogen and magnesium, and there are all these atoms that make up chlorophyll. We did an activity the other day and looked at what color light plants absorb the best. Here's a different way of looking at that. Look at this graph. This says percent of light absorbed and wavelength. So according to this graph, which color light do plants absorb best? You probably told me red and blue, and you would be correct, okay? So we're going to write that in our notebook. Chlorophyll absorbs red light and blue light the best. And the reason it absorbs them is because the surface doesn't have any red or blue. Green light, however, is reflected. So we know green and yellow light are probably the worst for photosynthesis. Next thing I want you to do is take a look at this picture, and I need you to tell me, how do we get energy? If we take a look at this picture, how do we get energy? We get energy by splitting apart molecules, okay? So this picture on the left is showing us this molecule is being broken apart and we release energy. The energy is actually stored in the connections between these atoms. If we want to use energy, we can use it to put molecules or atoms together. So this is important when we talk about our first step in photosynthesis, which is the light reaction. So go ahead and write this down. Photosynthesis happens in 2 steps. The first step is what we call the light reaction. The light reaction uses the sun's energy to split water. So we know that plants need water. Okay? They need water, and they use that water and they split it up into hydrogen and oxygen. So go ahead and write this equation down, okay? You will never be asked to remember the numbers here. I just need you to understand that we're taking water, we're splitting apart the H's and the O's. So at the end, we have just H's, we have O's, and because we're breaking it apart just like we saw here, we also get some energy. So the reason we need to do this is because we know that plants produce oxygen, right? They use water, and we also need some energy for our second step that we're going to be talking about, the second step in photosynthesis. Underneath this light reaction, I want you to write down where it takes place. So the light reaction happens in the thylakoids, and these are our membrane discs that are inside the chloroplasts. So the thylakoids, they're the little pancakes, one little pancake. All right, so little membrane discs inside of the chloroplast. So first step, called the light reaction. Why is it called the light reaction? Because in order to do it, we typically need sunlight energy. So typically this happens during the day. So during the day, the sunlight energy comes and splits the water molecules apart and creates energy. We will talk about the second part tomorrow.